Hello everyone, welcome to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. We're doing something super fun tonight. We just got done playing our Armory event here at Gongaii Blitz, because that's what we decided to do until Christmas. And we decided we were going to sit with the guys here and speculate about what's coming out for Everfest.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
All right, folks, so welcome back. Thanks for joining us tonight. So what I wanted to do was, obviously, I'm Andrew. Thanks again for joining. And what I wanted to do first is go around the table, have everyone introduce themselves. Billy's kind of slouching back, so he's probably blocked out by me. But, well, Billy, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Billy. I've been playing Fab for, basically since the release of Monarch. I've been collecting for longer. Love it here at Gongaii. Appreciate all the games you put on and tournaments and stuff like
Awesome.
that.
Thanks, man.
My name is Steven. I've been playing Fab for about 4 months, getting into new different heroes and styles of gameplay.
My name is Matthew. I've been playing Fab since the end of July. Started with Monarch, and yeah, just been loving the community and the game and all the different heroes and avenues to play.
Awesome.
My name's Adam. Been playing Flesh and Blood right around Arcane Rising release. Been a lot of fun since then. Before that, though, I was definitely in the TCG scene playing a lot of other games, mostly Magic, like a lot of other players have. So kind of have that experience to transition into the game and see where goods and bads are and how I like it. Yeah.
My name is Teak. I am also a Magic player, got into Flesh and Blood around Monarch, and I'm also a level 1 judge now for the game. Have been for a couple months now.
That's right. Yeah, Teak was our first level 1 in the area, actually. Yep. Nice. Yeah, that's right. All right, and I just want to point out some Discord names for those who are watching on DC Discord. So we have Turtle Rock. We have Oats. We have Alligator Zero. And you are...
Just Teak.
You are Teak. Okay.
I just put Teak as my name.
That's
because I'm a judge. I want to be identifiable.
All right, fair enough. So February 4th is not that far away, especially because we have the holiday season coming up. I would anticipate that spoiler season is probably going to be truncated to some degree because we're coming out of the holidays, right? So maybe we'll get 2 to 3 weeks of spoiler season. So my question for you folks is, what do we hope to see coming out of the set? Now, there's a couple things we do know, which is that every class, or they didn't say every class, they said every hero is being supported. That's actually what they said, which is important, because it doesn't mean Boltyn's going to get something and not Warrior, right? At least as per my interpretation of the English language. So we'll see how that goes, right? So again, we'll just go left to right to start out. So what's the biggest thing you're hoping to see, Billy, from this set?
As you mentioned, since you mentioned Boltyn, I'm a Boltyn player, love him. I think the biggest thing for Boltyn is I really want a non-attack action that charges.
Okay.
I think that's a pretty shared sentiment with most Boltyn players too.
Seems to make sense. Okay.
I'd like to see more specialization cards. I know it's not coming in Everfest, but that would be fantastic. Make a little more flexibility for other Blitz heroes that have been released in the past.
So I actually want to build on that, and we can obviously discuss, right? That was something we were talking about earlier today on specializations being a way to really hone in on supporting a specific hero versus a class, right? So how could I support Februrary, for example, without giving all the Runeblades all the love like they always get? Right, so I think that's a really good point. Is there anyone in particular who you're looking to get some love for?
Weirdly, I'd like to see more Februrary rune chant generation.
Oh, okay, so we just went right on
Februrary.
So I actually had a question. So there's the specializations, like there's the legendary Chane one that has that summons the ally, and then there's another specialization that's just him like dealing a boatload of damage. Mm-hmm. Would you want to have more specializations that are summoning allies? Would you just want to have generally more specializations that support the hero? Because I play a lot of Rhinar, and he's got like Sand Sketch Plan, Alpha Rampage, and those both help him like achieve his goal of just intimidating your cards away and then punching in the head? Like, what are you kind of looking for?
Sure. So the ally thing, I don't really think has much of a place in Flesh and Blood, right? We kind of bring it back quite a bit more to like Magic the Gathering, where you're summoning monsters to attack things.
Yeah.
So like Bravo doesn't need an ally. There's no scenario where that makes sense.
Bravo ain't got no friends.
Bravo ain't got no friends.
He's too busy being the leader, man.
But there are certain things. So a lot of the setup that's involved with Bravo. So there's a couple different ways that I see him played. So we see all the specializations. We have one specialization that's specifically aimed at setup, which is to pull a Crippling Crush out of your deck and have it ready to go for your next turn or that turn if you have enough to pitch. Or we have Crippling Crush. So something that's mildly in between, maybe an attack that if it hits allows you to do something different, right? Obviously not getting into too many specifics with what I'd like to see, but specializations that allow you to mix with the specializations that already are there. So not necessarily just damage, not necessarily just setup, because every specialization kind of falls under one of those two categories.
And would you be interested in like a legendary one? Because I like the legendary setup with like the Viscerai ones, compared to having like you can have in CC 3 of them.
So
like
one copy, yeah.
Yeah, like having one copy, I feel like it could increase the power level and give you like in Bravo, you want a lot of blues. Like maybe it can be a blue legendary.
Right.
So you can only have the one copy, but it has like a kickbutt effect.
Yeah, and I'd even love to see, as silly as this sounds like a specialization, that's a Bravo pitch specialization.
Oh, like a
that maybe
gem or
like
something.
buffs a hammer damage or something like that. So you can have an off turn and you can still swing Anathos for 6 or better.
Oh, that'd be cool. That sounds
so
sweet.
some kind of weapon buff that is like a blue pitch, that would be just fine with me too. Because it's both a setup and a damage kind of all in one. Because you can hold onto it, you can do whatever you want to do with it. Something that can be pitched from Arsenal would be fantastic. Because I find that a lot of times in Bravo, it's either defense reactions or pummel that sits in Arsenal. There's almost nothing else that makes sense to sit there. So something else that you can sit there would be great.
All right. So our resident wizard player, what are you feeling?
For wizard, I would like to see a legendary headpiece or a majestic headpiece. I haven't decided. The lens is really good. The lens synergizes with Kano pretty well, but I think he needs definitely another piece of equipment to help with the life deficit, especially in constructed. Other than that, for Levia, I'd want another blue 6.
Another blue 6?
Yep, another blue 6 that blots for 3.
Can we make that just a brute?
A brute thing?
A blue 6. I, as a Rhinar player, would also like a blue 6. That'd be just rock and roll.
Yes,
like
more blue 6s.
Please.
All around.
I'll just take a majestic blue 6. It could have blank everything else. It could just be 6
say,
attack,
let's
3
be
defense.
careful, because that means it's a red 8. So
Yeah.
I'll take that. That sounds good.
Yeah.
all right.
Or maybe something looks like a malice or something like that to counteract maybe the higher damage.
Yeah, I mean, I think more blood debt for sure is on the way. I mean, there's no question on that, right? But
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. What are you thinking, Adam?
I feel like this is a real temperamental thing to go with too, but no secret, I'm a big fan of generics. I feel like they're more interesting because a lot more heroes can use them, and we can see good or bad in some decks. That's the case. So me personally, I really want to see a generic weapon. Specifically, just a new generic weapon, something, I mean, not even like an overpowered one, just something new, something different to use that might be enticing for 1 or 2 other heroes to try to play around with, maybe in a specific build, but at least just to give that option out there for all of those other generics lovers out there in the world, kind of thing. Just to kind of expound that more generically, pun there. I'd like to see just generics, more generics that play into more synergies too, right? Because you can tell when you play with generics, the synergies just aren't there with the class cards.
But by that you mean like a nimbleism, nimble strike type synergy?
Exactly.
Okay.
So a lot more of those, and that kind of play off more than one other card, though, right? Things that play off just other things. I think because when you play an actual class, and you play class cards, you really feel that synergy in this game, right? With those cards playing off of each other. And when you play a lot of generics, that's just not the case. There is some things, really specific interactions, but nothing, and I guess that's probably a specific design for the game, but I feel like it can get really fun when you're playing a lot of generics and you can still feel that they have their own identity, so to speak, that isn't necessarily a class, but you can tell they play off of each other just by nature of being generic.
Sure.
So more like Flock. Or it's
Yeah.
just reveal one less, so you can go with like a little weenie, go wide deck, or
Right, and
something
if that card's a generic, then it would say something like, reveal a card. If that card's generic, you get this other special bonus even kind of thing, right? So you can see how it starts to build more of a synergy around generic cards. And I think that'll be really interesting to take certain heroes even, again, for better or worse maybe. And then again, this is all just me kind of spouting off. If some heroes prefer to play with just a lot of generics like that too, with maybe sprinkled with
that was
some
going to be my
class cards.
question: is how do you keep that in check? Because I hear this girl named Briar
Yes.
tends to like
That's why I know
just
it's-
run in a bunch of good stuff.
Yes, that's why I know it's temperamental, right?
Yeah.
And I think maybe, that's a good question. I didn't really think that far. I think it'd be interesting if they start to insert some cards that they limit heroes for. Like you can, like a keyword where you can only play this card if your hero isn't a specific class type.
Could I bring up something in that line? So, back in my youth, when I was indiscriminate in my taste of TCGs, I played Hearthstone. And some cards in Hearthstone, it being a digital format, I understand that that's different than Flesh and Blood, but it could track if your deck had only even cards, only odd cards. If maybe it was a card that checked to say your deck is consisting only of generics or only of class X, Y, or Z, or what have you. That could be a way to keep it out of the hands of people like Briar or decks that are troublesome in the formats.
Maybe something like Nourishing Emptiness, but instead of saying attack action cards, it could say like Runeblade cards or something like that.
Sure, yeah, you could go something
there you
like
go.
That's interesting.
Yeah, something like that.
It's tougher to track in paper, but it's still possible. Like especially if you're in some sort of higher echelon of tournament play, you're gonna have deck checks and things like that.
Right.
So if somebody sneaks it into their deck and they're not supposed to have it there, it'll be caught, and kind of prevents cheating. But you also have to keep that in mind when you're building your deck. Of like, I can't play elemental cards because this card only lets me play generics in Runeblade, or
There you
only
go.
lets me play generics
Right.
in X or
Right.
whatever.
I think that's feasible. I don't think LSS is above
It's
doing
definitely it's happened in
something
Magic.
in that.
I mean, it's happened.
We've
yeah.
seen it in other games too, where I mean they don't necessarily require it for deck entry, but it requires they've designed around it to play it. So I don't think that's unfeasible, not feasible, unfeasible, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yes.
that's out of the realm of design. Very interesting.
Yeah.
So you were in response to him. So what are you hoping to see?
Okay, so I was thinking about this, and I would be interested in seeing, because we were talking about the rarities of cards that are coming out in the set, new heroes that are combining class types that haven't been combined yet. So, like, I'd be interested in something like Elemental Illusionist, or maybe...
Sure.
like, we have Shadow Brute, maybe we could have, like, Shadow Warrior or Shadow Illusionist or something like that. Introducing new combinations to play cards in, or even taking, like, they have a Light Illusionist with Prism, maybe we just have Illusionist, and have a new Illusionist hero that can't play the Light cards, but can still play the Illusionist cards if we introduce new Illusionist cards to the format. That could be something a little bit of a change, so that we're not just seeing the same 7 or 8 heroes coming up. Like, we have Shadow Brute. I would like to have another Brute that isn't Rhinar, just to test it out and see if I like it. And that may be introduced in a bigger set rather than a supplemental. But,
Right.
I mean, in Crucible, we had Kassai and a couple of others introduced. Is that right? Am I thinking of the right set?
Yep.
So maybe something along those lines. On like a rare level, we have a couple of like new young heroes to kind of test it out to see how it works. Might be kind of cool.
So you're actually like right on the same page with where I was going, right? So one of the questions I wanted to float, and there's a bit of a backstory before I propose the question to just the table, is Crucible of War. I think a lot of people are viewing this as the next Crucible of War, right, to a certain degree. And the question I have is that really feasible at this point in the game? Because Crucible, right, we need to harken back to where we were at that point. Crucible introduced, for many of our heroes, the second playstyle they had, right? There was only one playstyle for most of our heroes until Crucible, and then they got options. And then we also got a bunch of other heroes for, yes, a sub-format of the game. But do you think we can have another Crucible, right, to your end where you're talking like, well, do we think we're going to see 4 or 5 Blitz heroes in this set? I personally don't think we will see Blitz heroes in this set. We could, or I shouldn't even say Blitz, right? Because that narrows it too much. But will we see alternative heroes in this set? I think no. What do you guys think?
I think likely probably not. I mean, I'd love to see some, but I don't think there's the space for it when you consider
I agree,
how many people they're trying to support. And like you said, if it's going to be like Crucible, it's either getting new power options or new play options to kind of everyone if they can. You know, some will be more successful than others.
Yeah, and I don't know that I did a good job actually describing so when Crucible hit, it expanded, it went vertical and wide, right? It added options for the heroes, and it meant more in like Spoils of War for Warrior was everything Warrior needed, and it went wider because you had the Kassai and the Sabers options, right? And it added weapons options. And at some point, exactly to your point, I mean, there's no space in this set to do that.
I mean, Viserai was another one, got like Movrian Skies,
Movrian
Consuming
Skies.
Volition.
Viserai may have been the winner of Crucible, right?
He got a ton, and then you see heroes came out afterwards, like Chane and Briar, that can then also use those cards to great effect and stuff like that.
So, I mean, I think it's a fair statement to say we're going to get a lot of support for light and dark. And we're going to get some amount of support for elemental in whatever depth that may go, right? I mean, I think that's a fair statement. So maybe the way to back out the calculation is to say, what support do you think the generic heroes are going to get? Is it just going to be like
the non-talent ones?
A a dash or whomever, right? Are they just going to get one rare? Or one common? They're just going to get 9. They're going to have access to 9 more cards. Is that the way it's going to be?
I mean, I think pretty much every hero isn't going to get as much as people hope they're getting.
Sure.
You know, like I would assume like maybe 3 new types of card at most for any one hero that they're actually going to get to play with. Hopefully, like one of those is either, you know, comes in like the rare comment where there's 3 different pitches of it, or it's some impactful Majestic that gives you like some new option. I think it's kind of the ideal thing and kind of can hit everyone then decently. If they go the other side where they focus maybe more on the talents, like, you know, they said they were supporting every hero, but, you know, that could mean supporting Boltyn and Prism is just done through light cards.
Right.
You know, and
Right. Exactly.
It would work, it would be true, but it might not be what people want.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair.
I think everything since Crucible, it's really interesting when you look at it, has been really focused on this talents, right? And so I do think that they and I rightfully think they should support the talents, right? Which I think leaves very little room, right, for the non-talented heroes. And we do still have a few of them, right? Mechanologist, for some argument there. Some people think Mechanologist is a talent, but that's, I guess, maybe another conversation. Wizard, right? We still don't have a talented wizard, that kind of thing. So I really think, there's only so much room in a set. I feel like either they're going to focus really heavily on the talent stuff and not so much on the non-talent, or they're going to just be spread so wide otherwise that it really, everyone's just not going to get what they hoped to get for each class.
This could be like a setup, this could be a setup for a future set too, where it's like you get some support here, and then the next set that comes out in June, July is gonna maybe really pump up support for the non-talent classes that we have currently, or non-talent heroes, I should say, not classes, but the non-talent heroes, or it's going to do something like reintroducing the heroes, like maybe Rhinar will have a talent in the next set, like the next major set, or maybe Mechanologist, like Dash, will have a talent, or maybe Dash Mechanologist is the talent, and she's going to have a subclass that's something different. Like she could be like a Mechanologist ninja or something like that. whatever it's gonna be. Like that's somewhere it could go. Is like they could.
I'll buy you a beer.
if I just called that in the dark, and in 6 months to a year we get Mechanologist ninjas.
We gotta go back to this.
They're wearing
a ninja that's just going around like throwing out items and stuff like that.
They're wearing.
It's not just a throwing star; it moves on its own.
Yes,
it's like an electrified throwing star.
No, it tracks where you point your finger. That's what it does. That way you can fly it around corners really easily.
So Kadachis with induction chambers is what you want.
Whoa! Oh.
Do you know how many dislikes we just
Man.
So you guys talking about composition is a good point, right? So Billy's suggestion to pull up the cell sheet was strong. So we're looking at 1 Fabled, 3 Legendaries, which we know we have Skullcap coming. I think the assumption is that Skullcap's going to be still the same rarity.
Well, we saw the image when Welcome to Wrath was released as out of print. They had an image of Arcanite Skullcap with the ELE
Yeah, but
stamp.
I don't remember what the rarity of it.
It was still
It was still red.
it was still an
Yeah,
L, yeah.
Right, so we know for sure that one of the L's is going to be the Skullcap, right? Well, there's a reprint discussion that I want to have too, but let's finish up the discussion about space, right? So there's going to be 45 Majestics, which is a significantly larger distribution, which means that you, by the way, Adam, are going to have to buy a lot more boxes this time around. That said, 45 Majestics, so those will all be one of, if it follows the pattern. 61 rares. I do want to note that is an odd divisible by 3 number, which means that we're likely to see rare specializations, right? That is almost a slam dunk. to some degree.
Possibly legendary rares.
Okay,
Right.
or one
That's
of.
all legendary rares.
Like what we were talking
Legendary.
about with the specialization.
Yeah, so you can
Okay.
only have one
Yeah,
in your
you're
deck.
right. That's where my head was with specialization, but you're right. A legendary could
Would
also
do it.
do that.
Yeah.
That's a very fair point. Very fair point. And then 88 commons, which is that is divisible by 3. So that one holds, but the rares do not. Right. So we'll see how that comes out. But yeah, there's going to be not enough room for everything, right? So just getting that out there right now.
So, in a set like this, do you we got some equipment in Crucible? They introduced Kassai and everybody, so
You
they
got a
got
fair
weapons.
amount of equipment
They got
actually in
weapons and stuff
Crucible.
like that. So, is there going to be some number of generic weapons or something like that? Or
I mean, I personally hope a lot of I shouldn't say a lot, but that at least a few of those Majestics are actually equipment, or maybe even some of the rares. That could be another way. They could be not divisible by 3.
Right.
Is if we get some rare equipment.
Yeah.
because I don't think we need any more armor, but some new weapons might be interesting. Who knows? Maybe some more arcane barrier would be good for some people, but I'm not really sure what we might need.
I mean, I think
addition
it'd
to
be
that.
interesting to get more Arcane Barrier 2, because there's not a lot of things that grant Arcane Barrier 2 right now. There's the Brute, Skullhorn.
Skullhorn. Yeah,
Skullhorn,
yeah, there's Arcane Barrier too.
And there's one more, but I can't remember what it is.
I can't remember if it's Storm Striders or the Nodes, but one of them is Arcane Barrier.
One of the wizard
yeah.
equipment.
Because that's who needs a crane barrier.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I'd like to see generic offhands or more generic
Offhands.
Offhands. That's it. I
that's
hadn't thought-
good.
because we have the.
because we've expanded on it in Tales, right? So we've introduced shields now. So now there's a whole bunch of other stuff we can now introduce with offhands.
Quivers.
So
Give me a quiver for the ranger.
quivers. We can introduce books or tomes for wizards. We can introduce, an offhand for a ninja that isn't necessarily a weapon. It could be something that's more defensive that Ira can't use.
That's more worse.
Give Needle a sheath so it doesn't break as easy.
little needle sheath.
Reinforced with an iron bar going through the middle.
Now it's actually just a dagger. But more generic options that can be used across different classes, right? So, like we talk about tomes and books, right? So, illusionists, wizards, runeblades, all these things can benefit from it. Right? So, it could be like a resource cost for an arcane damage, or something similar to that effect. So, it's still offensive, it still matches the offensive, but you don't have a staff, and that is it. You have one option. That is it. If you are an illusionist, you have one option. That is it.
Yeah.
If you play a trader, you have one option, and that is it.
Maybe a staff that can attack, like a club.
It's something.
Right, yeah.
So we have a lot of defense reactions that are based around getting attacked with the weapon. We've got Steelblade Shunt, and a couple other different ones. But the point being is there's a lot of attack or defense reactions based around a weapon attack. And there are classes that just don't. Period.
Yeah.
And if you have a bad turn with Kano, you do nothing. You're like, okay, 2 arcane damage, and you do nothing. So having an alternate path to do some kind of damage would be...
That could be pretty sweet, yeah.
All right, I want to shift us into the reprint discussion, right? So it's no secret that the entire first block of Fab is now out of print, or has been announced out of print, to whatever extent you want to call it a block, right? But WTR, Arc, and Crew are all gone. And the community seems very adamant that all of this is getting reprinted in this set.
We're going to get them all,
And I
baby.
realize that
Every
my
single
reaction
one.
right now is saying what my opinion is. but it's just not going to happen, right? So the community. So let's do it this way. We'll go around the table with a yes or no. Do we think that Command and Conquer is being reprinted in this set?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. I'm gonna go with no on this one. I think it's the future
I'm going
set.
to go with no. How about E-Strike?
No.
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 E-Strike, you said? No, definitely not.
I think we're all in agreement that one's coming out in whatever version of the next iteration of a base set is. Fair enough. But there's a lot of other stuff that I think is... I'm giving my opinion. Let me rephrase the question a different way. Sync and Fate are fundamental cards in this game. They're commons that have been $1 since ever, for an obvious reason, right? And I'm not saying they're overpriced. There's a reason. They're both gone. So if we get those do we get those reprinted, or do we get a new one? And if we get a new one, what are the implications of that from a deck building standpoint? So I'll go to you, Matthew. What do you think?
I'm not sure. I think they will reprint Sync. But the other, so when Sync, Fate, and then Rise Above was the Monarch, which was a rare. So they had the one where you filter your hand, the one where you opt, and then the one where you put a card on top. So I don't think there's any more ways with which they can do that. So I think they would have to reprint Sync. Yeah.
And do you think it'll be in this set? That's the question.
Yeah.
Do you think it'll be in this set?
Yep.
Sync? Okay.
Interesting. I feel like I don't play enough defense reactions to really have an opinion. I just built my Rhinar CC, and I'm playing Reckless Swings, and I'm playing a couple copies of Fate for
I'm
Scene.
shocked that the Brute player doesn't want to defend.
It's like, I think maybe that's a building faux pas on a deck building faux pas on my part, is that I just don't play enough defense reactions or defensive cards, like the one that gains you life, and I can't remember the name of Sigil. Yeah, I don't play cards like that because I'm like, I just want to punch people in the face. Like, that's all I really am interested in. I want to shoot arrows at you with Lexi and Azalea, and then lose horribly when my bow breaks in half. Like, that's what I want to be doing. I don't want to defend. But it is an interesting question. I mean, it's surprising because they're commons, and I guess, from my perspective, I'm like, these are fine, but it's like they're not crazy. But I guess if they're so heavily played that they're so expensive, I could imagine that they'd be reprinted just to keep the supply high. And it might end up taking the place, even though it's tougher for this format or for this game, of Evolving Wilds and Magic. It's reprinted in darn near every set, and it's just there to help limit it generally. But in this game, where every card can matter, having those defense reactions be evergreen, at least one or two of them be evergreen, so that they're always kind of being reprinted every 2 to 3 sets to kind of keep the supply high for more players joining the game, could make them very important and keep them pretty inexpensive.
Yeah, makes sense. So, what do we think? So there's that question mark set coming out in Q2 2022, right? So to continue our conversation about reprints, right? Do we think that is going to be a quote-unquote core set?
The one after whatever Everfest is?
No, it'll be, so it's Everfest in Q1, and then I assume
Summer,
early
I guess.
Q2, because they're in order, right? So you read left to right. No, I don't know.
I mean, from what they've said, I feel it has to be a core set.
That makes sense for the rhythm of the printings. You have
So there's a standalone booster coming in Q2, but there's another question mark set. There's 2 sets coming out in Q2 2022.
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
One of them is a standalone booster, which is our new Monarch, right? Kings, whatever.
Okay, gotcha.
And then there's question mark also in that quarter, right? So will that be a 2-player starter set type product, or do we think that's going to be a revised edition core set?
Oh, it could be maybe a remastered set of a bunch of the good cards from the past couple of
I don't know about remastered. That has different overtones to it, right? But
I mean, I could see them consolidating. The idea with Unlimited was that when you needed cards from a set, they would print it, and kind of everyone thought we need more WTR. It was okay, cool. There's not any now, but we'll print some later. Maybe they found out that wasn't really a sustainable model. So maybe you're onto something. Maybe they'll just have as you said, the first box or whatever it is. Maybe those will just be combined into some new unlimited reprint, and then that's the one that whenever they need more of it, they'll just send that to the printers. And maybe that's what it'll be, is you'll have 3 boxes, and and then eventually they all get consolidated, and maybe that will be the
Like a big print run.
I might be on the other boat. I actually think it would more likely be like some sort of starter set, like the Ira package type of stuff. I think it'd be like timing wise, it makes sense for me, and as far as like gap between that kind of product, it's been a while already.
Right.
And if they're not going to kind of do anything with that, unless something unannounced comes between them, I feel like that could very well be some kind of something. Because we all know, I mean, that's a piece where I think this game lacks a lot, is that new player entry point, right? We know there's the Blitz decks and a few options like that, which, are hit or miss depending on what pros and cons you're looking at with those. And I feel like the Ira decks were actually very popular. The Ira Welcome to Wrathe.
Well, free stuff is always fun.
Well, that too, right? Yes, and that's how it works.
Especially when it's good.
I feel like it could be something like that, at least some sort of entry-level product for new players. Yeah. Not. I don't know if it's going to have like unique cards in it. Like I think the Ira package did have some unique specific cards you can only get in that product. I'm not going to say that much.
Well, until Crucible, it did.
Right. So I'm not going to say that might not be a thing. But I feel like it could be a really good window of opportunity for LSS to introduce a new starter package type of deal there to get new interest in.
And that's where they could include like the commons like Sink Below and Fate Foreseen.
Maybe, to get those
that
reprinted in there
set.
too. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would really like to see a new player-friendly format.
Okay.
Because Blitz is not really new player friendly if you're playing in any kind of constructed format whatsoever. And Classic Constructed certainly is not new player friendly in any way, shape, or form. So not necessarily a PvE environment, but I would like to see a PvE build in some capacity. I feel like that would be very easy for new players to get into.
You guys keep hitting my bullet points because that's the other way that this set could go. There's been a lot of speculation on that this will be a PvE set.
It could be its own standalone thing, and you could have cards that only benefit you in a PvE environment, where you could have 2 or 3 or 4 or a scalable number of players playing against a common encounter, so a new player does not feel intimidated to sit across from somebody and say, oh, cool, you're playing Ira and Blitz, I lose. Unless you're playing Kano and you really, really get lucky.
Right. More cooperative and not competitive.
More cooperative, easier to get people into. Easier to bring somebody.
I mean, Marvel Champions is about the only thing keeping Fantasy Flight Games in business right now. So that and what's their other one, the one with the horrors or whatever. But I don't know, you're giving me dislikes for that one too. So co-op is a big thing in gaming right now.
I think it's going to be a box of nothing but cold foils for every single set. It's going to sell for $400 a box. You're going to have a great time.
Let's just bring out Secret Lair.
Yeah.
Fab.
Oh wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Wrong company. Never mind. They're actually going to do something beneficial for the players once in a while.
No, beneficial for the secondary market. Stop it.
All right, so coming back to the legendaries, the other one that I'm very worried about is Tunic being out of print. Surprisingly, we haven't seen the prices really move a whole bunch in the last week. But it being out of print, it's a pretty basic, fundamental, important card to Flesh and Blood. So do we get a new Tunic? Does Tunic get reprinted, or do we have to wait for the next core set?
It could really easily be an item. An item that you play out, it generates counters every single turn, and then you get to use it once instead of actually having a...
Oh, so you're saying a new card?
Just a new card altogether, instead of another chest piece of equipment that does the same thing.
But then that doesn't solve the Tunic problem, because then people would play Tunic and the new item.
They could.
They'd play 3 of those items. Well, I guess it could be legendary, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. That'll be interesting. So.
Yeah, I don't think they do. No, I don't think they reprint it in this
there's no
supplemental.
way Skullcap and that come in the same set.
No,
right?
yeah, I feel like, and especially as far as like a product standpoint, if you want people to actually buy into the product, if all the most rare cards are reprints for a lot of people who are already in the game, that's not going to be enticing enough for them. I feel like to get
well, not for the existing players, but if you knew
for new players, for sure.
If you knew that Tunic, Skullcap, CNC, and E-Strike were all in the same set, those would never hit your LGS.
Yes.
They would never get there.
Right.
People would be tackling the guy shipping the boxes to the LGS, trying to get the boxes.
And that is my primary reason why I don't think that those are going to be in the set.
I mean, personally, I'm hoping for like a non-legendary equipment that, while maybe not better, but gives other options, like so that you don't have to be searching for, full slotted out legendary in every piece.
Like Deep Blue.
I mean, Deep Blue is actually not bad.
No, Deep Blue's really good.
It's actually really good.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah, like some, obviously Deep Blue is a common, but like if we had a Majestic that did some sort of resource management, but in Blitz, Heart and Cross Strap could arguably be better than Tunic because it's worth 2, and Tunics are usually never going to get you 1 if you're lucky. Or maybe just like Carrion Husk, just a chess piece that maybe like it doesn't even have to be resource, but just something that contests that slot and has some relevant effect.
So I got to bounce, but I want to propose a question to you guys. Talking about chess pieces and armor and stuff like that, what if some of the slots are filled with higher rarity equipment for more classes? So like I play Brute, there's the Brute headpiece that is the Majestic, then there's his shoes, the Scab Skins, and then the only other armor piece that he has is the common chest piece, the cross straps, right? Or no, Barkbone. Thank you, yes, Barkbone. So maybe some of the classes get higher rarity armor that can contest the Tunic for their class. Like maybe Brute gets like a Majestic armor piece that's a chess piece that produces resources when he discards cards. Mm-hmm. Like maybe it produces 1 if he discards a card and you have to destroy it or something along those lines.
I mean that's
or
sort
an
of
action point like a Tunic.
Yeah.
I mean that's sort of what like Skeletor for Viscerai and Courage of Bladehold is for a few of the warriors. It's a chess piece that somehow helps with resources, but isn't Tunic and is at Majestic. So I mean with Crucible being out of print, they're still kind of spendy, but they're like what $60-$80 as opposed to like $150.
Yeah. Or more.
I just
I
like the idea of diversifying the equipment for heroes because like playing Brute, I have access to 3 pieces that are class specific, but they vary across the rarities, and they also vary in power level greatly. So like Warrior, you have access to a legendary or Majestic for every piece of your body, to varying degrees of power level, I guess you could say. So maybe having some good rarity cards for the classes that can challenge existing armor might be kind of an interesting idea. Just putting that out there, but I gotta hit the road. I appreciate having the chance. So have a great night, guys.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, I mean, we did see. I think that's a fair question, right? And I'm going to modify the question slightly, but we did see a ton. I mean, Crucible was equipment and weapons. That's really what it brought to the table, right? And yes, some really cool heroes, but it was equipment and weapons. Do we see this being the same?
I don't think so, because the theme of Crucible was like forge, making stuff. And this is very Carnival.
Dude, you just nailed it.
And, so I think just the fact that the theme is so different feeling, we're not going to I would still want some equipment. I don't think you're going to see nearly as much. I mean, they've mentioned, the Carnival slot? Who knows, who knows what that could be?
Right, yeah.
Like what if maybe...
what does that mean? Because it's not on the sell sheet, right?
They just said like one of the slots was the Carnival slot, and they've given
and didn't explain it.
Yeah,
they
did
not.
No other information.
Well, but you get 1 premium foil per pack. Oh, but that's in terms of like the collation, not in terms of like the assignment. So because you get 1 premium foil, you get rare or higher at 2 per pack, right? Which is standard, and then you get 7 commons.
Yeah. Well, so the interesting thing is you actually can now get, I believe, 3 Majestics in a pack if you get lucky, because you're foil and they're 2 rare or higher if they're both Majestic. So
yeah, I mean, so they're not, because it used to be you always got a rare.
Yeah, it used to always be a
One
rare,
was always.
then a rare or higher, and now it's 2
But
rare
what's
or
this?
higher.
Because I'd heard that as well, but I hadn't been able to find any actual documentation on the Carnival slot.
Look at the side of the box on the sell sheet.
Yeah, about saying, and one of the information
I can't. It's covered up by packs. But yeah.
But I think it was the announcement. They mentioned the Carnival slot. I think that's where it was. I can't quite remember. But yeah, they gave no information on it. For all we know, it could be a random card from any set in the Carnival slot.
I know it was mentioned because some of us talked about it, about what it could possibly mean, and throwing everything out there from the Carnival
Someone
items.
on the internet had an idea?
At least one. Throwing things out there like a Carnival, could be Carnival item themed slot or something like that. So
I mean, who knows? But I think the idea is for that slot to be fun and exciting when you open the pack.
Right.
No, that's a solid speculation, actually, that it's a random it's a grab bag card.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's an interesting idea.
You know, like
in the carnival, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Elixirs,
trinkets, miracles, and more.
There you go.
So instead of the items, or it's going to be the item set instead of the
slot,
weapons
yeah.
set.
See, I would be okay with that as long as they then also introduced more like item interaction cards.
Right.
Currently, I think Brute has the only one with Hard Smash. Yeah. But like if we got like a generic one that could also destroy items or maybe temporarily disable them or something like that, I think it could be really interesting to then also then add more items to the set because now you have the counters to them and stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Generic items would change the play if they were reasonably decent of almost every single hero.
Well, it could shift us almost into a. I use this word carefully, but a control-esque play because you'd be worried about, or you'd be primarily worried about building up your board state and then sweeping out, right? Because to this point, Dash has really been our biggest control, right? I mean, Guardian too, but
Who ironically also uses items as a focus.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well, we're gonna wrap this up. I don't know how long we've been going because I haven't been paying attention, but so we're gonna go reverse order. So what I want to know is what's your dream pull from this set? If you open the first pack, there is no spoiler season.
Ooh.
We're here playing draft with it because even though you can't, we're gonna do it anyway. No, we're not. I don't know.
Okay.
You're opening the first pack. What are you getting, and what are you happy about?
Ooh. Generic, of course. Like a generic 0 cost, something similar to to Exude Confidence. Similar to that, like a 0, maybe 0 for.
It's a solid card.
A 0 for 5 with not as much upside maybe as Exude, where you can't pump it and doesn't have like a play on the defense ability. But like a 0 for 5 generic. That maybe even has somewhat of a downside. I'm trying to think of one specifically. I can't think of it, but just something generic that I can then razor to go over the top if I need to would be really spicy. Yeah, something like that. So like a good Majestic generic that I'm like, oh yeah, you can do all kinds of stuff with this. This feels really cool. And of course it should be foil because it's my first pack. So yeah.
Fair enough. All right, what do you think?
I'd want another wizard card like Sonic Boom, something that'll let me play off the top for free. That or that blue.
It's a slippery slope. That's a slippery slope. No, fair enough. Fair enough.
I want any kind of Guardian attack with Go Again, so I can put it into a deck that has not roused the Ancients.
Have you met my friend Zealous Belting?
I have, yeah.
It's a generic, not a Guardian card.
Well, that's true.
I want
That's
a
true.
Guardian-specific card with Go Again, or even a Guardian or a card that is a like double swing with your weapon in a turn. That would be fantastic.
Double swing with your weapon.
I'll take it. Just swing in a circle.
Wait, does Terra Sunder just gives the next attack dominate, right? Not
Yeah,
the
and
weapon.
discard
Okay.
2 right?
Yeah, not the weapon. I think he's talking about like I want to have a reason to actually dual wield hammers.
Basically.
Don't
I
give away
follow.
the secret, man.
I got
Yeah, I
it.
would love to do that too. It'd be pretty sweet.
Oh, that's true. We're supposedly getting what's his Krabby Grandpa's legendary shield, right? Is still
Stalagmites.
I mean, it's a mystery. We don't know if we're
yeah,
getting it or
yeah.
not. But
it's still in the ether.
yeah,
somewhere.
it's been mentioned by name, but it does not
That's right.
exist.
That's right.
All right.
I mean, I guess I kind of answered that with Boltyn, but also, I mean, off the top of my head, like, I still need a skull cap. I would love to get that. But on a different point, back to kind of the weapons, I would love a polearm weapon, honestly.
Yeah, baby.
And then, like, you could have maybe the attack reaction that affects, like, axes and polearms with some cool effects. So that you have, your razor for your bladed, your pummel for your blunt, and then your whatever for, like, your wooden-handled long ones like axes and polearms.
So what would your polearm design be? How do you reflect first strike in this game? Right. That's,
I mean, I think maybe what it does, somehow it. I mean, it seems broken in the top of my head, but somehow it like gets around armor.
Like negate the first 2 defense or something?
Yeah, it's like negate the first. Probably not 2. That seems too much.
Or
But maybe,
reduces any card defending it reduces its defense
reduce
by
its
2 or
defense
something.
value by like 1 or something like that.
Yeah.
Why don't we just go no defense reactions? Because that seems to be amazing at doing exactly that.
See, that might be too powerful.
That is, we're talking
That seems
CNC
a little
level.
too- Yeah, but
I feel like
there's
that was-
no arsenal destruction, right? Just no defense
right,
reactions.
right.
Make
hey
it like
man,
a
we
3
gotta
or
sell
4
cards. Power creep.
I mean, but that could be fun. I do think that might be a bit too powerful.
Make it a box.
It's
topper.
reaching too far with the pole arm.
maybe. Well, no, because then you're getting into like
Yep.
maybe it's a legendary, but like maybe make defense reaction similar to Heart of Ice. Make a defense reaction cost more or something like that.
Sure.
That might be more balanced, but then does it step on the toes of other things like that or not? But more options in other slots, I think, is always fun.
Right.
All right. Well, awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I do want to see more axe support. I was playing Boltyn axes tonight, by the way. I do want to see more axe support. We need a Razor reflex for axes.
Something. It's like
To your
that
point.
archetype that's like 1 or 2 cards away from
Right.
actually being like
Yeah.
as viable as
It's
another.
like you've got Spill Blood, and it's an 80-cent card for a reason right now. Let's make Spill Blood good once again. It never was, but let's make it good. Anyway, Anyway, thanks guys for throwing this together, and thanks everyone for watching. I know there was background noise and stuff, but hopefully you had as much fun as we did. So, anyway, anyone else want to close out with anything before we get out of here?
Play more Fab.
Thank you to Andrew. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, for everything you're putting together for us.
All right, well that'll do it, and y'all got to say it with me. 3, 2, 1.
Go Commando.
Go Commando. A little late.